Now we're on.
Now we're going again,
Yes, we are.
okay. Well, rambling on, I guess as the property was water access and we were unable to drive in anywhere close, boats obviously become a key part of our cottage experience. And before I can remember, my parents had a mahogany boat that they called Billy B, the first after my sister and I. And I don't know much about it, I never saw it, I don't remember it. But very soon after that, my father had an opportunity to finance a boat that Earl Barnes was building for a boat show in Toronto. And so this boat became the Billy B II. And it was a mahogany boat and a unique teardrop design, which was very unusual and I think probably still is. The boat, we loved it, and it was our means of going to North Portage almost every day to get the milk and the mail and to find out what was going on around the lake, because we didn't want to miss any cocktail parties. And that was for our daily routine. And we would head to Huntsville, I would expect at least once a week, to do shopping for additional fruit, vegetables, and so on at Boyd's store, which was right beside the docks in downtown Huntsville. So that was fun, that was great, and sometimes the ladies would even go shopping in Wardell's. So that was interesting.
I remember Wardell's.
I know.
Lots of plaid.
Yeah. So anyway, the boat was a wonderful asset, but it was also a real liability. I think when it was being built for the boat show that Earl Barnes was rushed, and I don't think he got enough glue into some of the places. So a couple of the downside things, that the boat always leaked like a sieve, and so it was almost a daily routine for me to have to bail the boat because it was leaky. And we tried on a couple occasions to have it fixed, but a little better, but it didn't solve the problem. The other thing with that particular boat, it was a 23-foot long boat, is that in those days they used 12 or 6-volt batteries, not the 12-volt batteries we have today. So it seemed as though the battery was always dead or didn't have enough power to start the boat, and off we go either to town or have to charge it up after we had power. So, and I guess the third thing I remember on the downside of that boat was the fact that the design with the pointed stern made it really difficult to steer. So when you were coming in for a landing, if there was any wind, it was cross your fingers and hope for the best. So those were the downside, but we had many, many wonderful upsides with that boat. And we had we used to water ski behind it with my cousin Doug, and surfboard, and we took, at that time there wasn't as many activities going on without roads or whatever, and it was at least once a year we would get flotilla boats, there'd be Musselmans and Moffats, and I'm not sure who else, Drew Brooks.
Drew Brooks, right.
And we all head through to Vernon Lake and have a fun picnic. And we did that at least once a year, so that was a good memory. I guess I can go on about the Billy B, but it was the mainstay of our interest in terms of survival and activities for a number of years. I guess the other boat was that my father had a sailboat, and it was built for Lake Ontario. Actually had a 500-pound keel on it.
Wow.
Permanently installed keel, so it wasn't one where you pull up the centerboard and away you they used the sailboat a lot. People did a lot of sailing because now they didn't have all of the other activities that are distractions that go on now. And they were always having races, and it used to be a real rivalry between my parents and Y. Eastmere. They had a fast sailing boat, so if there was a really strong wind, we could win, but if it wasn't a strong wind, they would fly right past us. So there was a lot of time spent sailing. One of my experiences, and I'm not sure I should tell you, but with the sailboat was that one day, a fairly breezy day, we had several friends out here, must have been 5 or 6, and we all decided to go sailing. And so with the wind, we were having fun. If I remember right, there might have been some beer on the boat, and this comes into the story because in those days we didn't have the winches or anything to deal with the sheets, so you just held onto the rope. And we'd been out quite a while, and my hands were, I'd been holding the rope all the way on the sail, lying to the sail. And so there's a chap there from one of the Caribbean islands, and he said, "Oh, I sail a lot, so I can give you a hand and hold the line for a while, give you a break." So that's good. So unknown to me, he took the line and wrapped it around his hand like that, which was a no-no because the rope line had to go through the pulley to let the sail in and out as you changed it. So anyway, make a long story short, a real gust of wind caught it, his hand, and the rope went up against the pulley. The boat continued to go, started to fill up and quickly filled up with water and sank to the bottom.
Oh my goodness.
This was out right in front of my uncle, Reverend Jack Moffat.
Oh.
And so anyway, Jack was good enough. He came out in his boat and started to get people out of the water into his boat, which was appreciated. But beer bottles, empty beer bottles, flying up from the bottom like, I don't know what, like missiles that were come down from 20 feet down, beer bottles all over. So he was good about it. He never made an issue of it, but I'm sure
you made an impression.
I'm sure it didn't raise me in his opinion of me, however. So that was, we had several sailing trips, but that was the most eventful for sure. I guess moving on, we back in those early days when we were water access here, the only way we could get back and forth was by boat. And we had a cedar strip boat with a great big 4-horsepower motor on it. And so one of my jobs here in the summer, and I always had lots of things to do, but one of my jobs was on Friday nights, whether it was my father or whether it was guest friends and coming up, was to hang around down on the point and wait for a car to arrive at the landing, and whoever it was would flash their lights off and on 3 or 4 times, and that was my clue to jump in the boat, start this big 4-horsepower motor, and roar across the bay at breakneck speed to pick them up and bring whatever belongings they were bringing with them for the weekend. So that was fun too. I remember I had good memories of that because it was always exciting to get over there and meet friends, or after not seeing your father for a week or 2, to pick them up. So on the boat, we had canoes, we had rowboats, and we enjoyed those, but basically those are the memories that I have of the boats. We had a couple of boats after that, bigger outboard motors, but they don't, other than being utilitarian, I don't have any particular great memories of of those other boats as we went along. And of course, Diane and I, we weren't here for a number of years, so during that period, when we were in Kenora for 13 years.
Oh,
we
that's
were-
right.
I'm sure there were a number of things going on here that we were totally unaware of, but as far as the boats are concerned, we always had a boat, and my father upgraded those from time to time. But those were the ones that I remember.
Did you participate in any were there organized Penn Lake sailing races or
Oh, yeah.
regattas? So there would actually be events like that
Yeah, they
you
went
take
right
part in?
back to when I was talking about the Eastmeres, and
So,
that was
okay.
usually a part of an ongoing Sunday race.
Series.
Sunday
Oh,
races like
okay.
they still do.
Oh, that's good. I didn't
Yeah,
know
they
they
had,
had that
they
far.
had, this- they just had Sundays, but every Sunday there was a sailing race.
Oh,
Yeah, so they were in those, and they had a lot of fun with those. They were always competitive in a friendly way, yeah, so that was good.
And do you know where any of the boats are today?
Our sailboat is stuck back, my dad sold it to a chap from up at Limberlost Road, one of the lakes up there at Solitaire, or not Solitaire. Anyway, he sold it to somebody up Limberlost Way. And that chap, after a while, decided he wanted to get rid of it and couldn't sell it because it was deteriorating. And so it actually sits now out at Ken Cunnington's construction site. Ken, who used to look after our road.
mm-hmm.
So if you go into his lot there with all his bulldozers and trucks and stuff, go right through that to the back, into the edge of the bush, there sits the sailboat.
It's still there.
And I've been there, so
Have
I know it.
Have you seen it?
Oh.
Yeah, 'cause yeah.
So,
Oh, interesting.
so it sits out there, and I don't think there was any name on the sailboat, but anyway, that's where it sits in all its glory. So,
And the Billy B?
Was the Billy B restored?
yes.
Oh, the one it went to Florida?
Yeah, so yeah, that's the chap from Florida that totally
Right.
restored it. And as I think I mentioned, I didn't.
It probably wasn't on tape.
Yeah, when the boat was really in bad shape when it went, and this chap Lance Wilson, whose career is restoring antique boats and selling them. And the interesting thing, he's an American, but their interest is in Canadian boats that were built, probably a lot of them, most of them in Gravenhurst, because they were one design, one boat. And I said, why don't you have any interest in American boats? And he said, well, like Chris Craft, they build 500 of them, so they weren't unique like our boats. So he had it down there, and the only thing that he used out of the boat was the design and the hardware. And there's one piece in the boat, there used to be a little place where you could put drinks in and spin it around so that it was either exposed or not. So he was telling me, he said, I retained that, and that's the only piece of wood from the original boat.
Is that right?
Was this little Lazy Susan thing for putting your drink in.
Isn't that clever to have
I
one of
know.
those? And
So they put a new motor in it, and totally different. And the only thing I didn't like about it when they went to Gravenhurst, because it was much better than it was originally, no question. It didn't leak, it all epoxy bottoms. But it had an American flag on the back.
Oh, for shame.
And I was so happy to see it restored, but it would have been nicer to see a Canadian flag on it.
Well, at least they could have put a Canadian flag with it.
That's right.
Two flags.
Well,
Because it is a
they're-
Canadian boat.
The people that bought it were very nice, and we're happy. So we have no regrets on that. It's nice. I'm rather happy that it's being enjoyed rather than sitting in the bush somewhere. That's either-
Mhm, for sure. Well, my dad always said it was the prettiest boat.
Well, I
The
think
prettiest
it
of the
was.
Earl
I think
bronze
it
boats.
was,
Yeah.
but as I say, it was a unique design and not necessarily very practical in terms of some aspects, but can't have everything. Where are we?
Well, so now we're done boats, and I'll just turn off for a sec just so we can take a little break.